Alright, so today we're going to be looking at Gimp, which is the GNU image manipulation program. It is a free and open source Photoshop alternative, which means you can download it at home and play around with it whenever you want. And it is a really good piece of software. It's going to be a little bit rougher around the edges in some ways than Photoshop, but really contains all the meat and potatoes of the tools that you might need, right? So it is a well-rounded piece of software. So what you'll see here when you pull it up is 2, if not 3 windows. Your main window here is this one, and that will allow you to get to either of these guys if you close them. This one over here, the other one that's important, is the toolbox, and also, in my case, contains the tool options. If you have a third window, you probably have layers over to the side, and we'll explain about that. If you need to reopen any of those because you closed them, you can grab the toolbox from here, and any of those other dialog boxes are dockable dialogues here. So you can see layers I have open, undo history I have open, and I have tool options, which is up here at the top as well. Those are probably the 3 most important ones that you're going to want to be using. So that's how you get to those if you close them. Over here in the toolbox, you have a variety of tools. Your general process when you are editing photos or pictures in Gimp is much like in Photoshop. You're going to be using selection tools to limit what you're messing with at the moment, right? To select the things you want to keep or don't want to keep or want to affect or change. You've got movement and scaling, rotation, perspective, skew, those kinds of tools. You've got things like text, paint. You can paint an area with a gradient. You've got a paintbrush, clone tools, blur, sharpen, smudge, burn, dodge. Each of these tools, as you click on them, has a set of options down here in the tool options box. So the helpful part about these is a lot of times when you hover over these, it will tell you what it is that option does. So you've got tooltips, hover over there, get your information. Here you have your color picker. You can select a foreground and a background color. Some things use both. Other things maybe only use one of them, right? Whichever one is on top here is the one you're painting with. You can swap between the two with this button. You can reset things back to black and white with this button. So that is the lowdown on the toolbox and tool options down there. Over here, layers, I'm going to go ahead and also, when you're working on things, you may want brushes open. These down here are the different kinds of things that you can paint with. Yes, there's a green pepper down there. You can paint with a green pepper. That is fun. So I'm going to go ahead and open up a file here to show you a couple things with layers, which is really the big thing that sets Photoshop apart, or sets Photoshop apart from something like Paint, is you have layers to work with. I'm going to open up something that I used here. I grabbed a photo from Purdue, probably off of Purdue's website or Google somewhere, and I wanted to make a poster for an event. And so you can see here we have layers now. These are all the, layer is pretty descriptive. It's like you cut a thing out and you stack it on top of another thing, right? Layer 1 here is the bell, or is not the bell tower, is the engineering fountain, and it sits on top of these other layers here that I had going, right? And so you can edit and change individual layers. You could apply a blur, say, up here in the filters. You'll find a bunch of different filters. Artistic would be one place to look around. Gimpressionist has a variety of different kinds of filters within it. You will have to figure that out a little bit if you want. But I'm going to show you what a blur looks like, not a, no. And undo on that. I'm going to show you what a motion blur looks like. And I'm going to make this nice and big to really highlight what we're doing. The blur will only affect the current layer that I have selected. So even if all I can see right now is the fountain, if I have a different layer selected, it's going to blur that layer. All of the filters that you use affect whatever the current layer is. So I'm going to hit OK on that. Over here, you've got a preview, so we can move it around and it shows you what's going on there. I made it nice and big in order to really show off what was going on there. So again, the important part is anything you're doing affects the current layer. And that's by design. You don't want to be, you'll notice that none of these other things were affected, right? If I need to undo something, I can hit Control Z. I can also open this undo history dialog, which again, you can find those here in Add tab or in that Windows options up at the top, right? Undo history is here. I can move back, and you see this is, we're talking about item visibility. This one says motion blur. If I click on that, that takes me back to when I applied the motion blur. If I click on the item before that, it undoes the motion blur. So this is basically a list of each action you've taken and allows you to undo things. So that's pretty useful there. Layers, again, allow you to move around what goes in front of what. If I drag this guy down, which apparently Cam Studio will not let me do that, that's fun. Cool. You would be able to see that I can move these things around here and change the order in which things sit. You've got opacity here that you can play with for how transparent you're making. You can see I can make that more transparent or more solid. That is most of what you need to know basics-wise in order to use Gimp for this project. Again, you'll find a lot of fun things to do here in filters. You'll find some other things to do, perhaps in colors. Posterize is a good, can make some neat effects, desaturate, playing around with some of the colors and things are also useful and fun things to do there. The other thing that can give you some neat effects is to mess with the mode. The mode changes the interaction between one layer and another. You'll have to play with these to figure out what some of them do, but I could say burn, and then that uses this layer to create a burn effect on the layers underneath it. So fun things you can do. Actually, that turned out kind of interesting. Cool. But I'm going to set this back to normal. I think that's about all you might need for this project. Do help each other out if you discover things. Let each other know what you found out. So hope you all have fun with this.